Dear professors and colleagues, I'm so happy to have the opportunity to be here and give a presentation about the work of our group in the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau. As you know, my research interest is the paleogeographic reconstruction of the Tethys region, and my research focus is the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau. I have gone to this plateau for more than 20 years. So today I give an introduction of the Permian faunas and the stratigraphy from every block in this plateau and discuss their implications for paleogeographic reconstructions. And firstly, please take a look at the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau. It was located in the western part of China. It is composed of two provinces, respectively the Xizang province and the Qinghai province. So it was named the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau. And it is a great and huge plateau with an average altitude over than 4,000 meters. So it was known as the roof of the world or the third pole of the world. And the scientists have wide curiosity as which force can support such a great and huge plateau. It's a really mystery in science. Also, because of its higher altitude region, it has great landscapes. It is always the destination for tourists. As you can see here, those white snow mountains are the Himalayan mountains. They have average altitude about 6 to 7,000 meters, so it's very high in these regions. In geology, it recorded the collision between the India plate and the Eurasia plate during the Cenozoic time. So it's crazy. In the Cenozoic collision can result in so high a mountain. And also the lakes in the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau are very beautiful. This is the greatest lake, largest lake, the Solinto Lake. And in recent years, because of the melting of the glaciers in these mountains, so the lake are becoming larger and larger. And also, this is the most famous, the Namto Lake, because it's very close to the Lhasa city, the capital city of Xizang. So it's a fascinating place for tourists. And the white snow mountain in the opposite side is the roof of the Nanjing mountain. It is composed of metamorphic rocks of the Proterozoic age, and it is the basement of the Lhasa block. Also, the animals in the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau are very special. They are composed of the Tibetan yak, Tibetan antelope, kiang, and the wolves, and also some bears. So it's a great national park in the northern part of the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau. Also, sometimes it's very dangerous for our geologists, especially for the Tibetan yak. They are very aggressive. They always dash for the people around them. So we should be very cautious in our fieldwork. And also, the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau is always a paradise for the geological studies. This is a figure showing my reading collections. Every spot here may represent a reference here. You can see here, and every year there are more than 500 papers released across different disciplines, including the stratigraphy, geochemistry, geophysics, sedimentology, and paleomagnetics. The goal of their studies is to know the deep evolutionary of the blocks in this plateau. The Tibet Plateau looks very simple, but is composed of different blocks separated by different suture zones. And those blocks include the North Changtang block, the South Changtang block, the Lhasa block, and the Tethys Himalaya of the India plate from north to south. The suture zones includes the Jingshajiang suture zone, the Longbucu Shuanghu suture zone, Bangong Nujiang suture zone, and the Yalozangbu suture zone. Every suture zone may represent the past oceans. So the composition of the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau are much more complex. And so the reconstruction of the evolutionary paleogeographic evolution of the blocks in the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau are much more complex during the Permian time. Those are different models you can see here. For the shape of the Pangaea, they are almost the same, but for those micro blocks, they are quite different in different models. Those blocks are the composition of the blocks in the Qinghai Plateau, Qinghai-Tibet Plateau in recent days. But so the reconstruction of the blocks in the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau are very important for us to know the paleogeographic reconstructions of the Tethys regions during the Permian time. The stratigraphy and the paleobiogeography are very important disciplines for the paleogeographic reconstructions because of the combined effects of the paleoclimate and paleogeography. From the viewpoint of the paleoclimate, we can see a stable transition from the ice house condition in the early Permian and to a greenhouse condition during the middle and the late Permian. Also, from viewpoint of the paleogeography, the most significant feature is the rifting of the Cimmerian continent, and during the early Permian time. So the combined effects of the paleoclimatic and the paleogeography has resulted in a very distinct paleobiogeography in these regions, because we can see different faunas and fossil groups in different latitudinal regions. Conversely, we can use our data for the paleogeographic reconstructions. But the paleobiogeography requires data. The data are very, very important for us. So in the past years, under the support of the Second Tibetan Plateau Research Project, we have the opportunity to organize a very big group to very remote northern Tibet for our field works. So the field conditions there are very difficult and are not easy because of the high altitudinal regions and the low oxygen. Also, in sometimes we can see the heavy snow there. So it's not easy, but we are so happy because we have the chance to collect many important fossil groups in different areas in the Tibet and for our reconstruction of the paleogeography. So today I will introduce the application of the stratigraphy and the paleobiogeography in the paleogeographic reconstructions. First, I will discuss the evolution of the Paleotethys Ocean. The key problem for the Paleotethys Ocean is which suture zones may represent the main branch of the Paleotethys Ocean. There are different the models and ideas. First, Professor Li said that in the Longbutu Shuanghu suture zone in the central part of the Changtang Basin represent the main branch of the Paleotethys Ocean. But in a late paper by Professor Karp, he said that the main branch of the Paleotethys Ocean is the Jingshajiang suture zone. The southernward subduction of the Jingshajiang suture during the Triassic time resulted in the exhumation of the metamorphic rocks in the central part of the Changtang Basin. So in this model, the Professor Karp does not consider the metamorphics as the suture zone in the central part of the Changtang. And recently, there's another model proposed by Professor Pan, and he said that the Bangkok-Nujiang suture zone is the main branch of the Paleotethys Ocean, and it evolved from the early Paleozoic time and since to the Mesozoic time. So you can see here, those are three different models. And in those models, our strata and faunas are very important to answer which model are correct. And those figures are from the Rojachaka area in the southern margin of the North Changtang block. We can see here it's a very beautiful sequence. And uh, during the Moscovian time, we found a very beautiful coral reefs. And just in this beds, we found the fossilinids such as the Fossolinella. They indicate the age of the Moscovian age. And also in the late Pennsylvanian time, we can find a very beautiful middle-bedded gray limestones. And also in this beds, we can find the fossilinids and the corals. Most importantly, we can find this very important sphaerosaurina fossilized fauna from the Asalian carbonates. As the discovery of this fossilinids are very important because there was no glaciation during during this area because the Asalian time is the achium of the late Paleozoic ice age, and in the Juchaka area, we cannot find any evidence of the glaciation from the Carboniferous to Permian time. So it's very clear that the North Changtang block does not belong to the Gondwana during the late Paleozoic time. But in the South Changtang block, it's quite different. Because we can find widespread glaciations in different places in the South Changtang block. They developed very beautiful the jobstone structures. Also, we cannot find the fossilines or corals in these beds, and we can only the cool water brachiopods. So it indicates that the South Changtang block was located in the Gondwana margin during the earliest Permian time. Similarly, we found widespread the glacial marine deposits in the whole Lhasa blocks. So they are quite the same. So there was no ocean between both blocks during the Permian time. It's clear that the Longmutuo Shuanghu Suchizong may represent the main branch of the Paleothesis Ocean because we can see the widespread limestone with warm water faunas in the North Changtang block and the glacial marine diamactites with cool water fauna from the South Changtang block. They are quite different in strata and faunas. So the next question is, when does the Paleothesis Ocean opened? It's also a key question. And in recent years, we have undertaken many field works in the Longmutuo Shuanghu Shuchi zone, in the between the North Changtang and the South Changtang, and hopefully we found very important radiolarians. They are dominated by the Devonian taxa. So the discovery of the Devonian radiolarians are very important because it can be correlated with the similar faunas from the Changli-Monian Suchizong in western Yunnan and the Qinghai-Innocent Suchizong in Thailand and Cheongsam-Bilzi and Bentong Ripe Suchizong in Malaysia. Those Suchizones are very important because it's the main branch of the Paleothesis Suchizong. So it's quite clearly from the stratigraphy and paleogeography that the Mesothesis Ocean may have opened at least from the late Devonian time, and it has become the widest ocean during the early Permian time. So it's the evolution of the Paleothesis Ocean. And the second question is the opening time of the Mesothesis Ocean and its southern extension. The term Mesothesis Ocean actually is very strange because in the original definition of the Sumerian continent by Professor Sanger, there was no Mesothesis Ocean because Professor Sanger said the southward subduction of the Paleothesis Ocean result in the back arc opening of the Newthesis Ocean and the subsequent formation of the Sumerian continent. And so in the later models, we can see here, there are only two oceans, respectively the Paleogeographic Ocean in the north and the New Tethys Ocean in the south. But in the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau, they are quite different. As we have discussed, the Longmutsu Shuanghu Suture Zone represents the main branch of the Paleogeographic Suture, and the Yangzhangbu Suture Zone represents the New Tethys Ocean. But between them, there's another suture zone, the Bangu-Nujiang Suture Zone. This is the Metathesis Suture Zone, so it was also called the remnants of the Metathesis Ocean. And this suture zone is much more complex. It has developed three different ophiolite zones. And according to our recent summarization of the radiolarians preserved in this suture zone, we found that the radiolarians ranges from the Middle Triassic to early Cretaceous time. So it suggests that this ocean is the wide ocean from this time interval. And as I have talked, there was no ocean between both blocks during the earliest Permian time. So it may indicate that the Metathesis Ocean may opened after the early Permian, but before the Middle Triassic time. So the correlations of the faunas and the stratigraphy between both blocks are very important for us to know the rifting history of the Metathesis Ocean. And firstly, we have found a very important brachiopods from the South Chantang block and the Lhasa block. The brachiopods are all found and discovered in the glacial marine deposits, and they are all dominated by the Bondproductus faunas. A quantitative analysis showed that there was no paleogeographic difference between both blocks. So it suggests that there was no ocean during the earliest Permian time. But just after the earliest Permian, the situation has changed. Recently, we have discovered a very beautiful sequence recording the rifting of the South Chantang block. And this sequence is composed of the Nanjing, Qudi, and Tulunggongba formations. And the Nanjing formation is dominated by the slumps. Those are very beautiful convolute bedding. And after that, we see the thin-bedded the fine-grained sandstones and of the delta environment. And in the upper part, they are dominated by the tidal flat or platforms limestones. Also, in those limestones, we found the fossilines and oiled limestones. So this transition recorded a history of the rifting of the South Chantang block from the Gondwana margin. Recently, we have found this sequence is very widespread in the western part of the South Chantang block. And from the upper part of the Qudi formation, we found a very important fossilines named the Monoxtina. It is a bipolar fossilized genus. Also, after the deposition of these interbeds, we found the widespread limestones, the Tulunggongba formation. Also, in these limestones, we found abundant compound corals, abundant fossilines. So it's apparent climatic warming, and its age of this limestone is Atinskin, so it corresponds to an Atinskin warming event. And also, it is recently a famous event during the deglaciation event in Gondwana. So, but we should note that there was no corals and fossilinids in the whole Lhasa block in the south. So clearly, it may indicate the rifting of the South Chantang block from the Gondwana margin during the Atinskin time. After the Atinskin time, we found that the South Chantang block is not stable because in the western part, we have found a, a distinct unconformity event. Because this is the Upper Permian Gibraltar group, it unconformably overlies the Tonogumba Formation. Just in the base, we found a very beautiful basal conglomerate. The conglomerate are all sourced from the Tonogumba Formation, but those unconformity are not found in the central part of the South China Block. Instead, we found a widespread basalt in this sequence. So they are quite different. And in those regions, the basalt are widespread. They were named the Lugu Formation. Recently, we have found abundant conodonts and fossilines from the lower part of the Lugu Formation. That they are dominated by Mesocontinental, Pseudognathis, and the fossilinids, Cancellina, Vulcana, Shuarina. Those faunas are all indicate an age of the late Congorian age. And also, it's very important to note that there was no such conodont and fossilines from the whole Lhasa block. So they are also quite different. And actually, in previous years, we have found abundant fossilines and the brachiopods from the Lugu Formation as well. And those age are also the Congorian and the Rhodian. We found that the faunas from the Shuanghu area are much similar to the Xianqian area. And so we have proposed that the South Changtang block is not stable. They are composed of two different type of the sequences. In the western part, it was the Doma type. In this type, there is a clearly unconformity event. There was no middle Permian strata here. But in the central part, we found the widespread the basalt in the mid Permian strata. So they are the Shuanghu type. And during the middle to late Triassic time, when the South Changtang block collided with the North Changtang block, a deep subduction resulted in the incorporation of the basalt and the whitestone in the axillary complex along the Nobuto Shuanghu suture zone. This is why we can find the widespread basalt and limestones with the similar fauna in the Nobuto Shuanghu suture zone. So it has evidenced a strong collision event in the central part of the Changtang Basin during the Triassic time. And conversely, we found that the Lhasa block is very stable across different regions. You can see the shape are quite the same from the Nanjing Formation to the Shala Formation. According to our microfacies analysis in the Shixuanhe area, we found that the Nanjing Formation and the Shala Formation are dominated by the bryozoans, crinoids, and the brachiopods. They are very beautiful BBC type. There was no fossilized, no compound corals from the whole Lhasa block. So the sequences and the paleobiogeography, the Lhasa block are quite different from that of the South Changtang block. It's very interesting to note that in the lower part of the Shala Formation or the Nanjing Formation, there is a special conodont assemblage named the Mesocontinental to Yavagnathis fauna, and they are not known from the South Changtang or the Texas Himalaya region. They are only reported from many places in the Lhasa block. So it's clear the Lhasa block is very stable. So from the viewpoint of the strata and the paleobiogeography, it's very clear that the Lhasa block is quite different from that of the South Changtang block. The Permian sequence in the Lhasa block are very stable, but that in the South Changtang block is not stable. Also, the warm water in the South Changtang block occurred earlier than that in the Lhasa block. So it indicates that the Mesopotamian Ocean opened since the Atlantic time. So the next question is when and which where is the southern extension of the Mesopotamian Ocean? So it is also a debated issue. And Professor Liu argued that the Myitkyina ophiolite in Myanmar has the same age with the ophiolite from the Pangong-Nujiang Ocean in Tibet. So he thought that the Pangong-Nujiang ocean ranged along this yellow line. But Professor Chi said that granite rocks from the Tengchong block is similar with that the Lhasa block. So the Nujiang Ocean is the southern extension of the Pangong-Nujiang Suchi zone. So you can see here, those are two different models. The solution to this debate is the Permian faunas and strata in the same plateau. So we have undertaken many field works just before the COVID-19. The Permian sequence in the same plateau of Myanmar is not easy to measure because of the heavy vegetation areas, and it's not easy to find many continuous sections. But the faunas in this sequence are very important because we have made more than 10 sections, or mostly are all small sections. But we happen to find that they are dominated by two special genera, respectively the Eopolicina and the Qinghai. And both genera are very special, are widely reported from the Baoshan block, but not from the Tengchong block. A quantitative analysis supported our conclusion that the same plateau has great paleogeographic affinity with the Baoshan and the South Changtang block. So it's clearly that the Pangong-Nujiang, the Mesopotamian Ocean, ranges along the Gaoligong Mountain in western Yunnan. So it's the blue line. It supports the argument, the idea of Professor Chi. Okay, also, the next question is what's the further extension, southern extension of the Pangong-Nujiang Ocean or the Mesopotamian Ocean? Because it's not clear and because it was cut by the Sejong Fault. So we have undertaken field work in the southern Myanmar in the Pan area. The area is very special, and we can see a stable transition from the glacial marine dimactites of the Tongyu group to the carbonates of the Mulium limestone. So it's a clearly transgression event. Just during this transgression, we collected many important conodonts. It was also dominated by the Mesconella and the Yamagnetes. As I have already mentioned, these assemblages are widely reported from the Lhasa block in Tibet. So the discovery of this assemblage from the Pan area may indicate this area may have paleogeographic affinities with the Lhasa block. So it's a very important signal. And subsequently, Professor Su Zhong and Dr. Xu has studied the brachiopods from the Mulium limestones. These brachiopods are the very special Spiromartinia fauna. And these fauna are widespread in the Subsaharian in the whole the Submussel block. But I should note that because of it is associated with the Congurian conodonts, so its age is Congurian in the Pan area. So it's very clear that during the Congurian time, the eastern part of the Submussel block, there is documentation of the fossilines in these regions. But in the Pan area, they are dominated by the cool water conodonts, brachiopods, but no fossilines. So they are quite different. It records a clearly paleobiogeography boundaries between the western part of the supermassive block and the eastern part of the supermassive block. So, and in the western part is named the Irrawaddy block. The eastern part is named the Sibuma block. The term is not named by our group. It was named by the Professor Reed in 1960. And in this paper, you can find that there is a question mark here, and he initially divided the Sibumasu block in the Irrawaddy block in the west and the Sibuma block in the east. And the main difference between both blocks is the thick dimactites in the west, but thin or no this dimactites in the eastern part. But this is not a robust evidence, so it was questioned by many other professors. But our studies proved that this subdivision is correct because the paleobiogeography from the both blocks are quite different. Furthermore, and Professor Su Zhong and Dr. Xu has performed a quantitative analysis based on the brachiopods from the Congorian and Rhodian time. And this analysis are very interesting because you can see that different methods employed has shown the same result, and that the Lhasa block have a great affinity with the Irrawaddy and the Tanchong block, especially for the network analysis. When we decrease the spin numbers to only two provinces, we happen to find that the major boundary just lies between along the Metastasis or Bengal-Nuyang Ocean. It may indicate that the Metastasis Ocean is a wide ocean during the Congorian and the Rhodian time. So it's an important quantitative analysis. Finally, I will discuss the opening time of the Metastasis Ocean. It is also a debated issue. Actually, in previous years, Professor Su Zhong has published a series of papers based on the quantitative analysis of brachiopods. And the result clearly shows that the paleobiogeography of the Lhasa block is quite different from that of the Texas Himalaya regions, at least after the Middle Permian time. So, but recently there are many different papers argued that the Lhasa block was attached to the Gondwana margin during the late Triassic time or early Triassic time. So they argued that during the Permian, the Lhasa block attached to the Gondwana margin. So how to answer that question? In the past year, we have undertaken the field work in different areas in the Lhasa block more than about 10 years. And we found that, as I have mentioned, the Lhasa block is very stable. We have published that in a Chinese book. And in this book, we have arrived at a big, significant conclusion that the warm water faunas in this block occurred synchronously from the Middle Permian time. They are different from the South Changtang block and also from the Himalaya region. So this block is very stable. It has a relationship with the Tanchong block in western Yunnan. So they constitute a continental slice during the Permian time. And also we found a very special fossilized assemblage. It was the Nekinella and Chusonella assemblage. You can see here, this assemblage was documented from different places in the Lhasa block, but they have not been found from any other blocks, so they are very special in the Lhasa block. Another evidence comes from a very special smaller foraminifers. It was the Sanita, and you can see like this. And the name of the Sanita came from the San state of Myanmar because it was firstly documented and found in the San Plateau of Myanmar. And later it was documented from the Western Yunnan and also the South Chanton Block in Tibet and the Central Pamir, and the Turkey and the Iran and the Oman. And if you look at this the distribution, it's very special because it was developed along the Sumerian continents. So the distribution of this the faunas is very interesting. Actually, we recently found the similar fauna from the Lhasa block. Also, we happen to find that this smaller foraminifers coexists with the mid-Permian fossil lines. So it indicates that the age of the Sanita is middle Permian rather than the late Permian as previously considered. Also, the distribution of these smaller foraminifers is not explained by the paleolatitude difference because we cannot find this genus from the South China block or the Indochina blocks. So, and we found that the distribution of this Sanita is limited in the New Texas Ocean. So we thought that it was controlled by the oceanic currents in the New Texas Ocean. In other words, the New Texas Ocean may have opened before the Mid Permian to allow for the formation of these oceanic currents. Another evidence came from the exotic limestone blocks in the New Texas Ocean. Because if we drive along the New Texas suture zone, we can find this widespread white exotic limestone blocks in the Mesozoic matrix. So they are very special along this road, and also the Jiangma limestone is one of the largest exotic limestone blocks. It has been divided into two different formations, respectively the Shilanta Formation in the lower and the Jiangma Formation in the upper. In the Shilanta Formation, we found abundant fossil lines such as the Chitis, Calarina, Nusuarina, Burkina, and in the upper part of the Jiangma Formation, we found abundant smaller foraminifers such as Cladiella, Richella, and Dilata fossilina. And all the mid-Permian and the late Permian foraminifers are not reported from the Texas Himalaya region. So it suggests that the faunas, the exotic limestone blocks, are not from the Texas Himalaya region. Recently, we have discovered widespread exotic limestone blocks in the southern part of the Zhongba city. Also, we happen to find that the fossil lines here are dominated by the Nusuarina, Calarina, Yanchiella, and Chitis, and it resembles the faunas from the Jiangma Formation. So they are almost the same. And the development of the exotic limestone blocks are very special, and it was associated with widespread basalt everywhere. Also, there was no terrestrial in the limestone blocks. Also, the faunas in the exotic blocks are very special. They are different from the Texas Himalaya region. Also, according to the geochemistry study of the basalt, and some other authors suggest that they are typical the OIB type. And finally, and other groups have done the paleomagnetic studies and on the basalt. They said that those exotic lime blocks formed in the low latitude regions. Taking all those evidences into account, we suggest that those exotic limestone blocks originated from the Middle Permian seamount in the New Texas Ocean. Based on our studies on the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau for more than 20 years, and recently Professor Su Zhong has write a synthesis paper based on the faunas and stratigraphy from every block in this plateau, and published in the Science Journal of Science. In this paper, we have divided the Siberian continent into two different continental slices. Uh, in the northern slice is composed of the South Changtang, Baoshan, and Sipmasu in the north, and the Lhasa Tengzhong Irrawaddy in the south, and also the Metastasis Ocean between them opened about the Artinskian time, and also the Newtasis Ocean opened before the Kongurian time. So we can find that the two ages are very close during the Permian time. So it's amazing uh, here that one rift may result in the formation of two different oceans. So this is our contribution of the stratigraphy and faunas to the reconstruction of the paleogeography. Okay, this is my talk. Thank you very much.